Dawn, eastern Ukraine, a dry field, dust hanging in the air. 12 Russian soldiers on dirt bikes gun it at full throttle. Engines scream, headlights slice through the dark. They're betting everything on speed. Move fast, hit hard, be gone before anyone can react. 60 seconds later, the bet is dead. One shot cracks through the engine noise. The lead rider drops. His bike slides across the dirt for 20 meters, sparks flying, and the whole formation unravels. No city falls, no front line breaks. But in 3 minutes, the battlefield exposes something Moscow doesn't want anyone to see. And it's the same lesson being studied right now in Washington, in Brussels, and in Taipei. So, why did Russia send motorcycles to the front line? Because tanks and armored carriers have become death traps. A BMP weighs 14 tons. It throws heat, it kicks up dust, it shows up on thermal cameras from 10 kilometers away. The moment it starts moving, Ukrainian FPV drone operators lock on. They can watch a road for hours. The second a vehicle is spotted, artillery gets coordinates. By the time it reaches the front, the assault is already over. That's the pressure forcing Moscow to improvise. Motorcycles are cheap, small, fast. You can spread riders across a wider front. On paper, it looks like a shortcut. Recon, probe defenses, find weak spots, then push through before the enemy can react. But the shortcut hides a fatal flaw. A motorcycle gives you speed. It doesn't give you armor. A rider is exposed from the front, from the side, from above. No plating to stop a sniper round, no roof to block a drone, no space inside to survive a blast. The same feature that makes it attractive is the same feature that makes it lethal. History keeps teaching the same lesson. Genghis Khan's cavalry conquered a continent because they had speed and open ground. The German blitzkrieg shattered Europe for the same reason. But when Nazi tanks hit the rubble of Stalingrad, speed became their biggest weakness. Speed only works when the sky and the terrain are on your side. If they aren't, speed just gets you to the trap faster. And the Azov unit understood that perfectly. They refused to fight on Russian terms. Russian riders needed noise, surprise, a short window of time. Azov needed the opposite: silence, distance, and a clear stretch of ground where a motorcycle has no choice but to expose itself. So they didn't chase the moving column with heavy guns. They let the terrain do the work. The path the Russians had to take looked open, fast ground, a place to build momentum. But from above, it was a killing corridor. From the sides, it was a firing lane. Azov snipers didn't plant themselves on the route. They set up where they could watch the entire corridor without being seen. Ruins, slight high ground, abandoned positions. Everything gave them a clean line of sight. It's the same principle that worked at Thermopylae. The Spartans didn't win with numbers or better weapons. They won because they picked the ground and the timing. The Persians were funneled into a narrow pass where their advantage in numbers meant nothing. 2,500 years later, the same idea played out in a Ukrainian field. The goal wasn't to build a wall of bullets. The goal was to create a quiet killing space that every rider had to pass through for one exposed second. That's where FPV drones became decisive. Drones hovering above the area watched the Russian bikes long before they reached the target zone. Direction, spacing between riders, the exact point where the path forced them to slow down or spread out. All of that information went straight to the sniper team. When the Russian motorcycles approached, the defenders weren't guessing anymore. They knew the curve where a rider would lean. They knew the damaged road where bikes would have to slow. They knew the open field every rider would have to cross. Each of those moments only lasts a second. In a normal firefight, that second is too short. For a prepared sniper team, it's more than enough. The strongest part of this ambush wasn't firepower. It was patience. Shoot too early and the riders turn back. Shoot too late and a few break through. So Azov waited. They waited for the point where speed could no longer save the column. The point where armor couldn't hide the men. And that's when everything changed. The first shot didn't just hit one rider, it hit the structure of the entire assault. When the lead bike went down, the others had only seconds to understand what happened, and those seconds destroyed the momentum that made the attack dangerous in the first place. A motorcycle assault only works when the rhythm holds. One rider follows the next. Spacing stays open. The group crosses the field before the defenders can react. But the moment the first bike falls, the rhythm dies. The path narrows. Dust rises. Engines keep roaring while every rider behind the wreck has to make a split-second decision under pressure. Some try to accelerate past the wreck. That exposes their escape route. Some slow down to avoid the obstacle. That pause gives the sniper a longer window. Some look back or swerve hard, sending a signal of panic that spreads through the whole group without a single word on the radio. Azov's fire wasn't random. It was measured, selective. Snipers focused on the moment a rider lost control of his movement. A man who stops too long becomes exposed. A rider trying to regroup his team becomes a priority target. Anyone who hesitates on the path of the next rider creates more chaos with one bullet. That's how precision fire does more damage than the round itself. Every shot forces the rest of the group to make a new decision. Push forward, fall back, scatter, retreat. None of the options are clean anymore because the formation no longer shares one direction. The bikes still had speed, but speed without order started working against them. Confusion spread fast. Riders couldn't tell where the shots were coming from. The crack of a rifle cut through the engine noise, but the source stayed hidden. Under that pressure, there's no time for careful decisions. A rider reacts to the last impact, to the wreck closest to him, to the movement of the man in front. At this point, the assault stops functioning as a unit. It fractures into individual targets. And the most important damage wasn't physical. It was the loss of order inside the formation itself. This is where the lesson connects beyond Ukraine. Defense planners are studying this exact scenario for the defense of the southern islands. If conflict breaks out in the Taiwan Strait or near the Senkaku Islands, the Chinese fast assault doctrine faces the same structural problem Ukraine just proved. Fast landing forces, light vehicles trying to cross open ground with speed. But when air and naval forces establish low-altitude drone surveillance and share coordinates in real time, that open ground becomes the same as the Ukrainian field. That's why Japan, the United States, Australia, and the Philippines are investing heavily in drone data sharing networks. The first island chain from Okinawa to Taiwan to the Philippines isn't just a geographic barrier anymore. In modern war, it's a monitored circuit. Back to the battlefield. The open terrain became the second weapon the moment the Russian formation collapsed, and the riders had nowhere left to hide. From ground level, the road looked fast. It gave the bikes room to move. It seemed safer than narrow streets or ruined villages. But through a sniper scope and an FPV camera, the same space turned into a clear kill zone. The motorcycles also created signatures that were hard to hide. Dust kicked up behind the wheels, engine noise cutting across quiet ground, heat signatures standing out against the cold field. Even when a rider tried to change course, the movement itself revealed the next possible path. Speed didn't erase the group. It just made them easier to track after Ukrainian observers had already fixed their eyes on the route. After the first riders went down, the survivors faced choices with no clean answers. Push forward and you drive deeper into the prepared zone. Turn back and you have to cross the same monitored corridor again. Stop, and you give snipers more time to aim. Every option was dangerous. Some riders tried to use thin cover along the edges, shallow ditches, small depressions, wrecked bikes, slight folds in the ground. But those places weren't real defensive positions. They couldn't block sight from the east, and as long as the area was still watched by FPV drones, they couldn't protect a man for long. Here, the fight changed shape. It stopped being just a sniper ambush. It became a hunt for reactions. The ambush entered a new phase the moment the first Russian motorcycle unit stopped functioning as an assault force and started looking for a way out. A few bikes that were still mobile turned back toward the wrecked group. From the Russian side, this probably looked like a quick rescue attempt. Dash in, pick up wounded soldiers, get out before fire hits. But through the FPV camera lens, that movement created fresh targets. Then support vehicles appeared from the rear. Buggies heading into the same zone, trying to save the situation before the assault fully collapsed. But the battlefield had already transformed. Azov snipers didn't need to keep the same firing rhythm forever. When support vehicles entered the monitored corridor, the snipers could reduce fire, shift position, and hand the most dangerous work over to FPV drones. The targets were no longer just riders in open ground. Now, it was a moving rescue column. The first FPV strike on the lead support vehicle could shatter the rescue effort in seconds. If that vehicle stopped, burned, or left the road, the vehicles behind it had to slow down. Some tried to detour through smoke and wreckage. Others stopped because no clear path was visible. The Russian soldiers who were still alive now faced a new problem. Many ran toward the incoming support, hoping it would give them cover. But gathering near burning vehicles, roadside ditches, or lines of low trees only made them easier to track from above. Instead of disappearing, they formed small groups that Ukrainian drones could keep watching. At this moment, the fight was no longer just a sniper ambush along a path. It became a trap stretched across the entire route. Ukraine wasn't trying to hit only the first wave. They were trying to break the rhythm of rescue and stop support from reaching men trapped on open ground. This tactical lesson is already shared inside the framework of the US-Japan alliance, Quad, Five Eyes. These intelligence networks aren't Cold War relics anymore. In a war where the sky is dominated by drones, they determine survival itself. For the defense of the southern islands, what happened in Ukraine isn't just a story from a distant country. It's a preview of future defense scenarios and a test case showing where Japan needs to invest now. Back on the field, some vehicles tried to bypass the destroyed bikes, but mud, smoke, and wreckage narrowed the path. When a driver had to slow down or make a sudden turn, FPV operators got a better angle. Drones don't need perfect roads. They only need a target that lost speed. Even light vehicles with added armor from civilian models couldn't change the situation once they were forced to stop. Vehicles meant to rescue soldiers turned into another obstacle on the same road. Some soldiers abandoned their bikes and tried to leave on foot in small groups. In the end, the original assault route no longer looked like a path toward Ukrainian positions. It looked like a broken corridor filled with abandoned motorcycles, blocked rescue vehicles, scattered soldiers, and drones still watching from above. So let's pull the lessons together. The most shocking lesson from this ambush is simple. Speed can get soldiers close to the front line. It can't save them after the route has already been mapped. Moscow turned to motorcycles because the battlefield became lethal for heavy armor. But even light, fast assaults can be stopped when the defender controls timing, terrain, and observation. The first bullet didn't just hit one rider, it hit the rhythm of the entire group. After that, every reaction made the situation worse. This is probably the warning Moscow has to face next. Because tanks and BMPs keep getting destroyed, Russia might keep using motorcycles, ATVs, buggies, civilian vehicles. But unless these light units get stronger drone support, better electronic warfare coverage, and more accurate fire support, they will keep driving into prepared killing zones. And here's the irony. The thing they believed would protect them became what betrayed them: speed. Those who charged in without knowing they were observed were killed by observation itself. That's the cold equation of modern war. For anyone watching this from outside the battlefield, the real meaning is direct. Supply chains, energy prices, semiconductor plants. All of it is tied to security in East Asia. And that security environment is directly affected by the tactics and technology proven in Ukraine. In an era where drones dominate low-altitude airspace, the defense network Japan builds on the southern islands is based on the same principles Azov used in that field: terrain, observation, timing, and information sharing with allies. This isn't a story from a distant war. It's connected to the value of currency in your wallet, to electricity bills in households, to the security environment children will live in years from now. So the question is simple. In a war where drones control the low sky, does speed still give you an advantage? Or is an observed road already a graveyard? Drop your take in the comments. If this breakdown helped you see the battlefield differently, hit like and subscribe. More analysis like this is coming next. See you in the next video.